Hello there. Please come on in, have a seat, and make yourself comfortable. My name is Dr. Chartreuse, and I will be performing your exam today, okay? Okay, well, it's very nice to meet you. I see from your file here that you think you might have synesthesia. Is that correct? Okay, and what led you to the conclusion that you might have synesthesia? A few of your friends told you that some of the things you experience sound like synesthesia? Okay, are you really aware of what synesthesia is? Okay, well, what it is, and it's nothing to be concerned about. Most people who have it pretty much consider it a gift. There are a few rare occasions where it can be a little severe and make certain things unpleasant, but for the most part, it's a very pleasant experience. And what it is there are basically signals crossed in the brain, which allows you to see colors in music or see time in 3D, things like that, depending on where the signals are crossed. And most people don't even realize that they are different from everybody else until they hear about synesthesia. Someone tells them that they experience things in a unique way, things like that, because generally, most people with synesthesia have experienced life in this way since they were children, so they've never known another way, and therefore they don't realize that not everyone experiences life like that. It's kind of like people who, dream in color, and then they find out that a lot of people don't. That's always kind of shocking if you grew up dreaming in color and then you find out that many people don't. So synesthesia is much the same way. You see words as various colors and you find out that, much of the rest of the population simply sees them as words. So again, nothing to be concerned about for the most part. It's generally a very pleasant cross-wiring of the brain. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you've been experiencing that you think might be synesthesia, and then we can run a few tests to kind of check that out, okay? Okay. And so is that all words or just the sounds? Okay. Mm-hmm. Kind of in front of you? Okay. Okay, yeah, it sounds like you may indeed have some synesthesia. There are quite a few different types, actually. So we're going to run a few tests just to kind of discern what types you have, okay? Oh no, there's nothing to be concerned about. None of these tests will hurt. They're all very simple, very basic tests, okay? The first one we're going to run is for some of the types of color synesthesia. So I'm going to start by showing you some letters, and you're going to tell me what color they are to you, okay? So why don't we just start with the letter A, and tell me what color it is to you. You can be as specific as you want. I've worked with many synesthetes, and quite often it's not just, red or blue. It's a very specific shade of red or a very specific shade of blue. So feel free to let me know exactly what color it is to you, if it is in fact a color. I'm just going to be writing them down on my little tablet here. Okay, so what color is the A? Okay. And let's go with, what color is the D? Okay. And how about a B? Okay. And C? Okay. And H? Okay. And E? right, and F. Okay, and G. Why did I do them out of order? It does make for a more accurate test if I do the alphabet out of order. And now we're going to go through them all again and see what colors they are for you this time, okay? And once again, we're going to go out of order, kind of stir up the brain and see if it's consistent throughout its color assignments, okay? So let's go with G, okay? And B, okay? And H, okay? And A, okay? And E, okay? And C, okay? And F, okay? And G. Okay, so all of your colors are exactly the same colors that you gave me before, including the very specific ones. So it is a good indicator that you probably do have color synesthesia. There's another test we're going to run, and I want you to tell me what shape you see in this group of numbers here, okay? Triangle? Yeah, and you got that pretty much immediately, so how did you do that? The numbers are different colors and they popped out at you? Okay, yes, that's another good indicator that you do have color word synesthesia. So let's check a little bit of auditory synesthesia. Now, have you noticed that certain words bring colors in your mind when you hear them as well? That one's kind of a sound cue and visual cue, so it'd be interesting to know if that happens for you as well. It generally does. Okay, in that case, let's test the music. Now, when you listen to a piece of music, how do you experience that? Do you associate any particular colors with a piece of music? You do. It's kind of like a colorful cloud. Okay, and is this like a, like a small floating cloud, or what kind of cloud is this? Just kind of a large cloud all around you where you're hearing all the different colors or seeing all the different sounds? Okay, yep, that's very common for those who have synesthesia, color responses to music. So it's likely that you do have that one as well. So I'm just going to write that down. Now, why don't we do a little bit of a taste test? On the counter there right next to you, you'll see I have a few things set out. There's some pretzels and some cheese and some pickles, various little snacks. I want you to taste each one and tell me if you notice any colors in the taste or anything like that. Let me know what sensations you're having, okay? The cheese, it tastes spiky to you? And the pickles taste kind of square. Okay, what about the pretzels? They taste wavy. Okay, yep. It sounds like you also have an association between visual and food, so you are tasting the shape of the foods. That one is one that can kind of be one of concern. It sounds like it's not a big deal for you, but it's more when it's reversed the other direction, where certain sounds or certain words will give people a taste in their mouth, and sometimes it's not a very good taste. Have you ever experienced that? Not as far as you know? Okay, Well, that's good because that one is one of the, the synesthesia types that can be a little bit difficult to deal with in regular life. I did have one client who their significant other, the name, every time someone said the name of their significant other, they would taste like broccoli in their mouth. And so they eventually had to break up because they just couldn't deal with that all the time. So if you're not having that problem, that's definitely a good thing. And now why don't we get into the spatial sequence synesthesia? Are you familiar with that at all? Okay, well, what that is people who have that form of synesthesia actually see time. And this is really probably the biggest one where people don't know they're doing this because they just assume that everyone sees this, but most people don't actually see time, They hear the word January and they do not get a picture in their mind. What happens when you hear the word January? You see it on your left? Okay, so what exactly does it look like to you? The calendar of the year, we'll say. You kind of see it in a circular line. And so depending on where you are in the year, you kind of move down the line. Okay, that's definitely a form of spatial sequence synesthesia. And those who have spatial sequence synesthesia, that's a very common way of seeing the months of the year. They are often, in very specific places, and particularly with the months of the year, they have a tendency to, be on like some kind of rotating calendar. Is the calendar around you or in front of you? It doesn't really matter per se, but I'm a researcher. I'm always curious. Some people have the calendar around them. For some people, it's just like a rotating wheel in front of them. Yours is the rotating wheel in front of you? Okay, and how about days of the week? Do you do that with those as well? Like when it's Friday, do you see yourself down here? And when it's Sunday, you see yourself up here? The days of the week calendar is very similar to the month's calendar. You kind of see the early days of the week over here and the latter days over here. And then depending on what day it is, you see yourself in different places along that line. Okay, do you move or does the line of days move? The line of days moves? Okay. Yeah, very, very common in spatial sequence synesthesia, so I'm going to say that we can definitely check the box as one that you have. Now, do you see the hours of the day in sequence like that? No? You've never thought about that before? Yeah, okay, so if you don't see the hours of the day like that, do you see anything at all when you hear about the different hours of the day, 10 a.m., 9 p.m.? You don't see anything? You just hear them and don't think anything else of it? Okay, so that's kind of fun for you then, because you get to understand how the rest of the world kind of sees time, because most people see time, months of the year and days of the week, the way you see hours of the day. In other words, they don't really see anything as far as any kind of a sequence. So it sounds like you've got the best of both worlds here. You both have spatial sequence synesthesia, so you can understand how people who have that see time. And because you don't see hours that way, you can understand how people who don't have synesthesia see time. So how nice for you. You get to have that double experience. So how about sequences of numbers? Do you see those in any kind of a line at all? You definitely do. It's not a straight line though. Okay, that's actually fairly common as well. They do tend to change angle. Where does yours kind of change angle? Around where it goes from single digits to double digits? And then when it goes from double to triple? Yeah, okay, so that's very, very common. We haven't exactly found out why that is, but many people with spatial sequence synesthesia do see numbers up to a certain point, and then they change at an angle when they get to a certain number, and they can change again, things like that. So it sounds like you're right on track there. It's pretty average as far as spatial sequence synesthesia. Not that spatial sequence synesthesia is exactly average, but it's fairly unusual. It's not very common, but those who do have it in a fairly average way that you're describing. So, what about the letters of the alphabet? Do you see those at all? You see those from top to bottom? So like A is up here and Z is down here? Okay, and are they just in a straight line, or do they zigzag, or they're just kind of rows of alphabet letters? Okay, and do they all have a certain amount, the same amount of letters in each row? Yes? They're very symmetrical? Okay. And when you're looking in your mind at that big graph of alphabet letters, do you see various colors in the alphabetical letters? You do. Okay, yeah. Again, that's also very common, so. Okay, so it looks like you definitely have a few forms of synesthesia here. There's one more that I want to question you about, which is probably one of the rarer ones, I think. And that is when you hear certain words, do you experience certain sensations like chills or heat or things like that, just physical sensations at the sound of particular words or even, sounds, musical sounds, things like that? Certain songs give you chills? Okay. Yep, that is a form of that, so. Okay. Any other interesting experiences? You think those are your only synesthesia forms that you know about? Okay, I do have a quick question. Do you happen to find a lot of four-leaf clovers? You do. Okay, yeah, I was wondering. A lot of people with synesthesia do happen to find a lot of four-leaf clovers, and I suppose it's just because a clover with 4 leaves does look a little different than a clover with 3 leaves. And so, yeah, people with synesthesia can often just walk along and see those 4-leaf clovers pop right out at them. So, yeah, it's just kind of a fun little side benefit of synesthesia. Whether or not it makes you any luckier, I can't say. We haven't actually done any research into that yet. But well, now that we've had our long chat and discussion, I just want to show you a few more letters and see what you can tell me about their colors, okay? So we have an N. Okay. We have an L. Okay. And a B. Okay. And a Z. Okay. And an X. Okay. And a Y. And an F. Okay. And an S. And a T. And an E. Okay, yeah. You keep hitting the same colors on the same letters, so I think we can definitely verify that you are in fact synesthesic. And again, you picked out the shapes and the numbers very quickly, which is a good sign that you're synesthesic. People who don't see colors in numbers generally can't pick them out that fast. So yes, your friends are indeed right. Some of the things you experience are not things that are necessarily experienced by the rest of the population. It's a smaller group that experiences life the way you do, but you do get the gift of seeing a more colorful world. So you can tell your friends that they're right, and you can enjoy exploring the fun world of synesthesia. Once you realize that you are synesthesic, it's kind of fun to just go and, experiment with different things that you might not experiment with normally, and, just see what kind of experiences you have with certain sounds or tastes or colors, things like that. So it's a lot of fun, and we highly recommend that everyone who is synesthetic go ahead and play with it, because it really is so much fun to just experience that world in kind of a unique way. So congratulations, and have a lovely rest of your day, and have a lovely time playing with some synesthesia experiments, okay? Have a nice day.